Let me ask you something honestly. You're a good band, you actually know how to play, you care about the music, you've been working on this song for a while and you've put real time and money into recording it. And when you finally bounce the mix and hit play, it sounds like a demo, like something is missing. It sounds like a band recording themselves instead of a real record. And you can't figure out why, and I see it all the time. I want to talk about it today, not to make anyone feel bad about the production, but because I think there are very specific, very fixable reasons why this happens. And most of them have nothing to do with your mixing engineer. This is about what happens before the mix, or what should have happened before the mix. And it didn't. Actually, real quick before we get into it, if you're currently working on something with your own band and you've got exactly that feeling, like this still doesn't sound like a real record and I don't know why, I currently have 3 free feedback slots open. You can send me whatever state you're at, a demo, a rough recording, a full rough mix, even something that's almost release ready. And I'll listen to it and give you honest professional feedback on what I think is holding it back and what I'd fix before the next step. All the links are in the description, Instagram, TikTok and my website contact form. Okay, let's get into it. Let's start with something that sounds obvious, but really isn't. Being a good band does not automatically make you good at making records. That's not an insult, it's just a different skill set. Playing well, writing good riffs, caring deeply about your music, none of that automatically translates into a professional sounding production. And I think a lot of bands don't fully realize that until they are standing there with a finished mix that still doesn't sound right. A record isn't a band performance captured with microphones, it's a production. It's a chain of decisions. Musical decisions, arrangement decisions, recording decisions, performance decisions, sonic decisions, and every single link in that chain matters. If even a few of those links are weak, it doesn't matter how good the mix engineer is. The record will sound like what it is. And this is the thing nobody really wants to say to a band that just spent 6 months writing their material. It might not be a recording problem, it might be a production problem. And those are not the same thing. This is probably the most common mistake I see, and I've made it myself. Most bands start final recording once they can play the song. Once the parts are figured out, once the arrangement feels basically right. Once the song is rehearsed enough that they can get through it cleanly. And that feels like the right time to record, because the song is done, right? But being able to play the song and the song being production ready are two completely different things. So what does production ready actually mean? Has the tempo actually been tested? Not just does it feel good in the rehearsal room, but have you tried 5 BPM faster, 5 BPM slower? Does the chorus hit harder at a different tempo? A lot of bands pick a tempo because that's where the song landed during writing, not because it's actually the best tempo for the recording. Has the key been properly checked for the vocalist? Not just can they sing it, but is it actually comfortable? Is it in the range where they sound the best? Because vocalists singing at the top of their range or at the bottom of the range sounds very different from a vocalist singing where they actually live. And that difference shows up immediately on a recording. So does the chorus lift? Does it actually feel bigger than the verse? And I don't mean louder, I mean does the emotional energy shift? Does something open up? Does the second verse develop? Or does it just repeat the first verse with the same energy and the same information? Are the transitions strong? Or do sections just happen? Does the song flow or does it feel like different parts stuck together? Does the hook appear at the right time or is it just too early and by the second chorus nobody's excited about it anymore? Or does it appear so late that the listener has already moved on? And maybe the biggest one, does the song actually work as a recording? Because a lot of songs work brilliantly in a rehearsal room. The energy is there, the volume is there, everyone's feeding off each other, and then you record it and something is gone. The song lives on the performance in the room, not on what's actually written. Most bands don't record bad songs. They record unfinished songs. So here's something that's harder to talk about because it touches on creative pride. But it matters. A clean take is not automatically a good take. I've heard plenty of recordings where everything is technically fine. The drummer didn't rush, the guitarist didn't flub anything, the bassist didn't miss a note. And the whole thing still feels flat. Like the band is going through the motions of the song rather than actually playing it, because technically correct and emotionally present are not the same thing. Drums and bass need to feel like one unit, not just locked, they're actually thinking together, breathing together, and when that relationship is right, the whole song has a different foundation. When it's just two people playing their parts separately, you can feel it, or you can't feel it. Guitar doubles need conviction. If you're doubling a riff and the second take sounds like someone who's already tired of playing the riff, it's going to sound like a double. But the wide stereo image comes from takes that have real energy behind them, not just from panning to technically correct performances. And vocals need emotion, phrasing and confidence, not just pitch accuracy. A vocalist who is technically hitting the notes right but isn't feeling it sounds like karaoke. And that's one of those things that listeners feel immediately, even if they can't name it. And every single person in the band needs to understand their role in the song, not just their part, the role. Is this moment about riff or about groove? Is this breakdown about tension or release? Is this chorus about power or vulnerability? Those are decisions, and if nobody makes them, the performance won't make them either. This one is so common in self-recorded productions that I almost felt like shooting a separate video about it. If you want one, let me know in the comments below. You dial in your guitar tone, it sounds massive, the low end is huge, the mids are fat, the whole thing sounds like a real professional guitar sound. It was great. Then you record the bass, huge, big, heavy, present. Then you track the drums, they are tuned for the room, sounds great. And you listen back to each element and everything sounds so impressive. And then you play everything together and the whole mix sounds small. That's because sounds that are impressive alone are not always sounds that work together. Like a guitar tone with too much low end competes directly with the bass. And now neither of them have space. A bass sound that's all size with no definition disappears in a full arrangement. And drums tuned for how they sound in the room might be tuned completely the wrong range for the key of the song. And when everybody's sound is huge and demanding attention all at once, the mix has to fight everything simultaneously. And the fight is what makes production sound small. Not the individual sounds, but the relationship between them. Professional productions are not built from impressive solo sounds. They are built from sounds that work together. This might be the single most common problem I run into with alternative and heavy bands. The chorus doesn't feel bigger than the verse. And when I dig into it, the answer is almost always the same. There's no contrast to make the lift possible. The verse is already too full. Guitars are wide from the very first note of the song, drums are hitting hard from bar 1. Everything is already at 80 to 90% of its maximum energy before the chorus even arrives. So when the chorus comes in and you add a bit more, it goes from 90 to 95% and nobody notices. The arrangement has given the chorus nowhere to go. And here's the thing, in heavy music especially, bands think that heaviness comes from everything being huge all the time. But it doesn't. It comes from contrast. The chorus feels huge because the verse was restrained enough to make that jump feel like something. Think about what the chorus could have that the verse doesn't. Like guitars that are wider or brighter, drums that open up and hit differently, vocals that get extra support, like doubles, harmonies, gang shouts, octave layers, even just a subtle layer of backing texture. An arrangement that has been purposely held back in the verse so there's somewhere to go. And if none of those things have been made before recording starts, you can't manufacture them in the mix. You can add some polish, some extra low end on the kick, some width, but you cannot create lift where there's no contrast built into the arrangement. If everything is huge all the time, nothing is huge. This is the one that probably makes me lift my eyebrows the most, because I've seen it and really good recordings. So the vocals are the last thing that gets attention. Everything else gets worked out in rehearsal, the riffs, the groove, the arrangement, and then the vocal is kind of fitted in around all that. And even the key is whatever the key the song was written in. And the phrasing is whatever felt natural in the rehearsal room. And the production decisions of doubles, harmonies, layers, shouts, ad-libs, those get decided in the recording session, or even in the mix. And then people wonder why the vocal doesn't feel like from a real record. The key needs to fit the singer. Not just can they sing it, but does this make them sound incredible? There's a difference, and it's worth transposing the whole thing up or down a half step to find it. The lyrics need to be actually singable. Not just grammatically correct or emotionally meaningful, but physically comfortable to perform and easy for a listener to follow. Sometimes lyrics that feel great on paper are a nightmare to sing with conviction at recording pace. Phrasing matters. Where the breath goes, where the emphasis lands, when the vocal waits and when it pushes. These are all decisions, and if they haven't been thought about, the performance will be improvised in the booth. And improvised phrasing usually sounds improvised. And then there are the production decisions around the vocal. Does this vocal need a double? A harmony in the chorus? A shout layer in the background? Ad-libs in the bridge? None of these can really be invented in the mix. They have to be recorded. And if nobody's thought about them before the session, they either don't happen or they get added in a hurry and sound like an afterthought. You can have massive guitars and great drums, but if the vocal feels unsure, the whole production feels unsure. Listeners feel the vocalist first. That's where they connect. And if that connection isn't there, everything else in the production becomes background noise. Okay, let's talk about the arrangement for a second. A lot of heavy music productions have a problem that's hiding in plain sight. Everything is equally important. Every guitar layer is loud, every element is forward, every part is trying to be the main thing. And when everything is equally important, nothing is important. A professional arrangement is actually a hierarchy. It's a series of decisions about what the listener should be focusing on at any given moment. And everything else serves that focus. The main vocal is the focus. The guitars support it. The chorus riff is the focus. The bass logs in behind it. The breakdown groove is the focus. The guitars drop back to make it feel like the floor dropped out. Not every guitar layer needs to be loud. Some layers need to be felt, not heard. Some parts need to make other parts sound bigger by getting smaller themselves. That's not a mixing decision, that's an arrangement decision. And if that hierarchy isn't built into the song before recording, the mix engineer cannot invent it. So arrangement is essentially mixing before mixing. If you do that work before you record, the mix falls into place. If you skip it, the mix becomes a problem-solving session instead of a creative one. And that's exactly why an outside perspective can be so useful. Because when you've been living inside a song for months, it's generally hard to hear where the real problem is. You might think it's the mix, but it's actually the arrangement. You might think it's the guitars, but it's actually the key or the vocal. If you want me to take a listen, I currently have 3 free feedback slots open. Send me whatever you're working on. A demo, a rough recording, a full mix, whatever stage you're at. And I'll tell you honestly whether I think the problem is the song, the arrangement, the recording, the mix, or something else entirely. And real quick, if you want something you can actually take into your next session, I made a free checklist PDF. Every question you need to answer before you hit record, organized by topic, print it, go through it with your band, check the boxes. It is totally free, just get in touch, and the links are right here and below in the description. Okay, I want to be really fair here, because this is not about blaming anyone. Mixing is incredibly powerful. A great mix engineer can transform a recording. They can create balance, build depth, add impact, shape the low end, make the vocal sit, create emotion, and make a good recording sound like a great one. But there are things mixing cannot do. Mixing cannot fix weak arrangements. It cannot make a chorus lift if the contrast isn't there. It cannot fix a wrong tempo or a wrong key. It cannot make an unclear chorus into a hook. It cannot replace uncommitted performances. It cannot replace missing vocal production. If the doubles and harmonies weren't recorded, they're not there. And it cannot repair bad tracking decisions. And it cannot manufacture contrast that wasn't built into the song. Look, I've been there too. I've been handed sessions where I could feel the potential in the song, but the production decisions just weren't there. And I've done the best work I could with what existed. But there's a ceiling. There's always a ceiling when the fundamental production decisions are missing. So this is not about making fun of DIY bands. I actually love working with self-recorded bands. There's something really honest about a band recording themselves. The performances also often have a rawness and an energy that expensive studio sessions sometimes lose. But the production decisions still have to be made. They just have to be made earlier. Mixing can make the right decisions sound amazing, but it cannot turn missing decisions into a professional production. Alright, so if all of this is true, what should you actually do? Before you start final recording, I want you to be able to honestly answer these questions. Is the song actually finished? Not can we play it? Is it actually done? Does it have a clear structure, a real chorus, a hook that does its job? Have you tested the tempo? Tried it at different speeds? Have you sat with it for a week and asked if this hits the way it should? Have you actually checked the key for your vocalist? Not just can they sing it, but does this make them sound their best? Does the chorus lift? And if not, what would need to be changed for it to do so? Can drums and bass carry the song together, or are they just coexisting? Does the vocal feel convincing? Not just recorded, actually convincing, like someone who believes every word. Do the sounds work together, or just individually? Is there a clear hierarchy in the arrangement? Does the listener know where to focus in every section? You listened critically to a rough demo before committing to the final takes? In the car, on headphones, with fresh ears? And have you gotten an outside feedback from someone who isn't in the band, who doesn't know the song, who can hear it the way a listener hears it? Because here's the thing, the cheapest time to fix a production problem is before you record it. A conversation before the session costs nothing. Redoing vocals because the key was wrong costs time and money and momentum. Discovering your chorus doesn't lift after you've mixed the tracks costs even more. Don't put yourself in their position if you don't have to. The problem usually isn't that you don't care, it's that you're too close to the song. You've heard it 1,000 times. You know every decision that went into it. And that makes it almost impossible to hear it the way someone who's never heard it before will hear it. That's not a weakness, it's just how it works. And it's exactly where an outside perspective can help. So let me wrap this all up for you. Good bands make amateur sounding records all the time. Not because they're bad musicians, not because they don't care, but because making a record well requires a completely separate set of decisions from writing and performing well. And those decisions need to be made early, intentionally and honestly. Record too early and you're committing to an unfinished song. Skip the arrangement work and the mix can't manufacture contrast. Ignore the vocal until the last minute and the emotional center of the whole record is undefined. Expect the mix to fix what should have been fixed in the pre-production and you'll be disappointed. And so will your mix engineer. None of this is unsolvable. Every single thing I've talked about today is fixable. But it's fixable before you record. That's the window. And the more of that work you do before you're in session, the better and cheaper your final record will be. If any of this hits a little close to home, honestly, that's a good thing. Because it means you can fix it. You're not dealing with a talent problem, you're dealing with a production problem. And those are very solvable. If you're currently working on a self-recorded song and you've got that feeling something is still not right, it sounds amateur, I can't figure out what, reach out. I currently have 3 free feedback slots open up for you and I'm happy to take a listen and give you my honest feedback on what I think is going on. One more thing before you go, I put together a free checklist PDF with every decision point from this video, organized by topic. Song, tempo, key, arrangement, vocals, all of it in one place. You can go through it with your band before your next session. It is completely free. If you want it, get in touch with me. The links are right here and also down in the description. And also to my Instagram, TikTok and website contact form. Drop me a message and let me know what you're working on. Whether it's the song, the arrangement, the recording, the mix or something else. I'll tell you straight. See you guys. Bye bye.